Hi guys, Chapter 2, Lesson 2, Understanding Inheritance. I'm going to try to make this quick. Alright, we were talking about Mendel. Mendel had done some experiments with his pea plants and had come to the conclusion that there were two factors for each trait that he saw in those pea plants, and one came from each parent. He called them factors, again, because there was no such word as genes. But scientists came up with that word later. A gene is a section of a chromosome that has a genetic information for one trait, and the different forms of the genes are called alleles. You'll get those one from each parent. They can be dominant alleles or recessive alleles. More about that in a second. Phenotype and genotype. Don't get these confused. Remember, phenotype starts with a PH, like photo. This is what you see. So this is also anything that you can observe. So this is your eye color, hair color, your height, weight, the way you smell. All of those things are phenotypes, things that we can observe about you. The code for the phenotype is the genotype. We can't see the genotype. That's the code inside your DNA that codes for what you look like, the phenotype. Remember, we can't see the genotype, so instead of seeing the genotype, we use symbols. Symbols such as uppercase letters to represent dominant alleles and lowercase letters to represent recessive alleles. We can have two different kinds of genotypes, homozygous and heterozygous. Remember, homo stands for same, zygous is referring to the zygote. So homozygous means that it has the same allele from both parents. But since alleles can be dominant or recessive, you can have homozygous dominant with two uppercase letters or homozygous recessive with two lowercase letters. Heterozygous is the other type of genotype. Hetero means different, zygous still referring to the zygote, but each parent gives a dominant and then a recessive. So that's two different alleles, making it heterozygous. When we keep modeling the inheritance, we use Punnett squares. Punnett squares are just a way of us using genotypes to figure out what could be a possible phenotype from a cross. A cross being two parents and finding out what their possible offspring could be. Go back to the module and use the Khan Academy to practice Punnett squares. All right, we use ratios to predict. When we are talking about our Punnett squares, we talk about percentages and ratios of those squares. Again, go back to the Punnett square practice and check that out. A couple of other definitions that we need to talk about. Incomplete dominance. Remember in the last video when we talked about blending inheritance and how that was not how it works. Well, incomplete dominance is sort of like blending inheritance when two phenotypes, two of the parents' phenotypes, actually combine to make a different phenotype altogether, such as a red flower and a white flower combining to make an offspring that is a pink flower. That is incomplete dominance. Codominance would be when both alleles are going to be observed. It doesn't matter that one is more dominant than the other. In this case, maybe both are dominant, and then you get something like a brown cow and a white cow having a calf that has brown and white spots. They both are dominant, and so they share it. Codominance. Polygenic inheritance. Polygenic inheritance is just the idea that all of this is not as simple as we're making it in this lesson. You can have multiple alleles, not just one from each parent, that control one trait. So blood type has lots of different kinds of blood type. People's eye color, they're not just brown and blue eyes. We have green and all shades in between. So polygenic inheritance just means that there is more than one trait, more than one set of genes that control a certain trait. More than one set of genes that control a certain trait. Don't forget that phenotypes can be controlled by the environment. You can go outside and get a tan. That changes your skin color. That doesn't mean that you're going to have babies that are tan. If you dye your hair green, you're not going to have green hair kids. You can change your phenotype, but that doesn't change your genotype. Hope this has been helpful. Love you. Bye.